Hello everyone! So in this video, I'll be showing how I made my antlers and ears for my faun cosplay. Starting with the antlers first, I used some wire as well as some aluminum foil to make the base of my antlers. For the size I made, it ended up using 30 inches of wire per antler. Then I just took my wire and started twisting and shaping it to the shape that I wanted my antlers to be. I made sure I left a couple inches at the base that would stick out from where my antler was. This is what the wire armature of the first antler was looking like, and then I took my second wire and tried to copy it the best I could. Once I got my wires as symmetrical as I could make them, I then took some aluminum foil and started covering the wires with it. This was to bulk them up more so that when I cover these with clay, they won't be so heavy. And I only really wanted to bulk them up towards the base of the antlers because when you get to the tips, they thin out a little bit more. Now that they were starting to look a little bit more antler shaped, I was ready to start sculpting polymer clay over them. I like to lay down some parchment paper on my desk just to help keep things clean. But yeah, I use Sculpey and some sculpting tools as well. They're optional but helpful. To get the clay on, I like to roll it out flat and then just wrap it around the wire like a blanket. Then I just try to smooth things out as I go and then just keep adding more until everything's covered. I also added this little extra point with clay. It was so small that including this in the armature would have been really hard, so I just made a little clay one and added it on top of it. There it is. And as an extra detail, I took my sculpting tool and made these ridges in the antlers. They just give them a cool texture, and yeah, you don't really even need the sculpting tool to do this. You can use like a butter knife or whatever you have. And once I was happy with how they were looking, I put them in the oven to bake. I just followed the directions on the wrapper. It was 275 for, I think I did 20 minutes. And here they are all ready to be sanded and get those little bumps and imperfections sanded away. Here they are. You can see the difference that sanding makes. It's great. I love it. Then it was time for my favorite part, painting. I just used various shades of brown and tan and made a gradient with the darkest color being towards the base of the antlers and then making them lighter towards the tips. So instead of attaching my antlers to a headband, I will be sliding them through wefts on a wig. And so they don't slide around, I'm adding some warbler attachments to the wires at the bottom to make sure they stay secure on my head. To do this, I used the help of my horrifying mannequin head. I drew eyes on her 10 years ago when I first started cosplaying, and she's been haunting me ever since. I used her to position the antlers how I wanted them to sit on my head, and then just took my warbler pieces and sandwiched the wire in between them. I made sort of an L shape with this. My antler was a little wiggly in the warbler. I tried fixing that with some hot glue. Didn't do anything, but now I realize that if I bent my wire in like a hook shape or a loop, I would not have had this problem. But I ended up fixing this by just heating up my warbler again and just making sure it was really tight against the wire, and it was a lot more stable after that. But now the antlers were done and it was time to move on to the ears. This is what my pattern looked like. It's basically an egg, and I just traced it onto fur. When cutting fur, it's better to use like a box cutter on the back. That way you don't have weird straight cuts into the fur. I am using the leftover faux fur I had from my Mononoke cosplay, so I didn't have short brown fur for this, so I ended up just shaving it and painting it brown. Is it ideal? Not really, but it worked. For the inside of the ear, I just cut the pattern out on some craft foam and then sprayed those with some Plastidip. And once the Plastidip was dry, I then painted the foam pieces a soft pink color. For the attachments of the ears, I took more of that wire and basically made 2 loops, and then these would get sandwiched in between the fur layer and the foam layer. With the 2 layers glued together, I then took my glue gun once more and glued down the edges of the base to make the ear into a nice curved shape. I also took some of the white fur scraps I had and glued them inside my ears to make them extra hairy. Then I went back in with my paint, just adding some final touches, adding more contrast, and just filling in any spots I might have missed the first time I painted the fur brown. If you're attaching your antlers and ears the same way I am, make sure you have a wig that has wefts and not a full mesh cap. That's really important, or else they won't work. But essentially, with your wig on, you're just going to find a weft and then take your warbler and slide it right between the wefts. And same thing with the ear, but make sure your wire is bent so it'll sit nice against your head. And then same thing, you're going to take the wire and find a weft where you'd like it to sit and slide it right through. And to make sure they are secure on your head, you can take as many bobby pins as you need and just pin the warbler and wires down. This ended up working great, and I didn't really have any problems with them sliding on my head or falling. And one of the cool things about the ears being attached to wire is that you can adjust them and have them up or down depending on how you feel or what your preference is. And with that, the antlers and ears are done. And that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!